I never thought betrayal could have a smile, but there it was, beaming at me from my phone screen. My wife, Maya, radiant in a sundress, sitting on someone else's lap, hand resting on her baby bump like nothing was wrong, as if I didn't exist, as if the child inside her didn't carry my name. She had posted the photo herself, publicly. No cryptic captions, no attempt to hide the man beside her. And the comments? They weren't what you'd expect. Poor Maya, she's glowing but hurting. Men never understand a pregnant woman's needs. She's carrying his child. Why isn't he there for her? Not one person asked who the man was. Not one noticed the hand on her thigh didn't belong to me. Or maybe they did. Maybe they just didn't care. Because when a woman cries, the world hands her a tissue. When a man breaks, he's told to toughen up. I didn't comment. I didn't call. I just stared at the photo, my mouth dry, my heart hammering against my ribs like a prisoner begging for release. Everyone wanted me to go to her, to hold her, to apologize for making her feel neglected. But I knew better. I held her every night. I had rubbed her swollen feet, made late-night grocery runs, and watched baby tutorials. And still him. The worst part wasn't the photo. It wasn't even the comments. It was the smile. That damn smile. That's when I realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was a performance. She wanted me to see it. She wanted the world to cheer her on as she stabbed me in slow motion. And I wanted answers. But more than that, I wanted justice. Maya wasn't always like this. Or maybe she was, and I just didn't want to see it. We met 6 years ago at a friend's engagement party. She walked in like a living storm, confident, graceful, a smile that lit the room and eyes that seemed to hide something darker. I was the quiet type, content to listen rather than speak, but she noticed me. Out of all the noise and chaos, she walked straight up to me and said, "You look like someone who reads people." I replied, "Only the ones who don't want to be read." That made her laugh, and I remember thinking, God, I want to make her laugh forever. I fell fast. Maya made everything feel intense, urgent, alive. When she loved me, she made me feel like I was the center of the universe. But when she was cold, I felt like a ghost. Still, I thought that was passion, that it was just how she expressed emotion. She came from a messy background. Her dad left when she was a child. Her mom cycled through boyfriends like seasons. She learned early on that affection came in bursts and that survival meant keeping people hooked. And I thought I could fix her. Typical. I'm a structural engineer. I build things to last. I see cracks before anyone else does. But with Maya, I ignored every warning sign. The sudden mood shifts, the subtle manipulations, how every fight somehow became my fault, how she always needed to feel validated, and if I couldn't give it, she'd find someone who would. Still, I proposed, on a rainy rooftop with a trembling hand and a heart full of foolish hope. She cried, said yes. We moved into a quiet townhouse, just far enough from the city to feel safe. We made plans, baby names, vacation dreams, remodeling ideas. I thought we were building a life, and when she told me she was pregnant, I wept. I held her like the world had just given me everything I'd ever wanted. For a while, things were good. We were good, or so I believed. Then came the distance. She stopped laughing at my jokes, started spending more time resting in her studio, where she claimed she was journaling or meditating. Her phone, once left casually on the counter, now never left her side. I chalked it up to hormones, to anxiety, to the million invisible weights women carry when growing life inside them. But deep down, I knew something was shifting. Maya was slipping away, and I was too afraid to admit it. Then there's Damien. I didn't know his name until recently, but I'd seen him before. A photographer, arrogant in that faux artistic way, always using words like energy and vibe. He came over once for a maternity shoot. I remember how he looked at her, like he already knew something I didn't. She said he was just professional. I believed her. God help me, I believed her. And now here we are. It happened on a Tuesday. Funny how devastation can pick such an ordinary day. I had just finished reviewing blueprints for a commercial building downtown, mentally making a note to pick up almond milk. Maya had developed a sudden craving for smoothies. My phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. A Mayan Bloom has posted a new photo. I tapped it absent-mindedly, expecting another filtered shot of her prenatal yoga poses or smoothie bowls. Instead, the image hit me like a punch to the chest. There she was, my wife, perched on a park bench, sunlight catching in her curls, that unmistakable bump beneath her floral dress. But she wasn't alone. A man sat beside her, too close, too intimate, his arm draped around her shoulders like it belonged there. One of his hands rested gently, possessively on her belly. And Maya? She looked peaceful, content, smiling softly as if everything in that moment was exactly how it was meant to be. The caption read, "Finding peace in chaos. Chapter, trust the journey." I stared at it, refusing to believe what I saw. My wife, carrying our child, looked like she was in love with someone else. Then came the comments. "Finally putting yourself first, Queen. Love this for you. Men never understand our emotional needs during pregnancy. You're doing amazing." I kept scrolling, hoping someone, anyone, would ask the obvious. Where is her husband? Who is the guy in the photo? But no, not a single person questioned her. They comforted her, praised her. I called her. She didn't answer. I texted, "Who is he? Why did you post that? Please tell me this isn't what it looks like." Nothing. Hours passed. I left work early, drove home. Her car was in the driveway. I walked in, heart pounding, and found her in the kitchen, barefoot, sipping herbal tea like the world hadn't just shifted on its axis. "You saw it?" she asked calmly, as if asking if I'd picked up the dry cleaning. "Maya, what the hell was that?" She took another sip. "I just needed to be honest. With myself. With everyone." Honest? What a twisted word to use after weeks, months of lies. That's when I knew. She didn't post that to confess. She posted it to win, to control the narrative, to paint herself as the wounded woman seeking solace while her husband failed her. That post wasn't a cry for help. It was a declaration of war. After the post went viral, yes, viral, Maya's following exploded. Overnight, she transformed from a part-time wellness blogger to a glowing symbol of maternal empowerment. People reposted the image with captions like, "Choose peace," and "Healing looks good on you." They didn't know she was still married. They didn't care. Inside our home, the tension thickened like wet cement. We spoke, but only when necessary. Measured words, quiet hostility. I slept on the couch, even though our bed was still technically mine. I tried to ask her why, not just about Damien, yes, I had finally learned his name, but about everything. When did she stop loving me? When did I become the enemy? But Maya always redirected. "You've been emotionally distant. You never really saw me. You were more obsessed with planning for the baby than being present with me." None of it made sense. I had been attentive, overly so. I scheduled her appointments, attended every ultrasound, researched prenatal yoga studios, even took time off work just to be around. I thought I was being a good husband, a good father-to-be. But to Maya, that wasn't enough. One night, I found her phone unlocked on the kitchen counter. I wish I could say I hesitated, but I didn't. I went straight to the messages. Damien's name was saved under Joy. I read everything. The late-night flirting, the shared complaints about how cold I was. Damien told her she deserved more, that I didn't see her, that if he were the father, he'd be in awe of her every day. And Maya? She ate it up. She said she felt alive with him, said our marriage felt like a cage now. But what shattered me wasn't just the romance, it was the strategy. "Post the pic," he wrote. "Let the world see what you've been hiding. It'll soften the backlash." And her response? "I want him to feel it. Not just hurt. Feel it." That was the moment I understood. This wasn't an affair. It was annihilation. The next morning I confronted her. Not with rage, just quiet clarity. I asked if she loved him. She didn't answer. I asked if the baby was mine. She flinched. "Does it matter?" "Yes," I said, choking on the word. "It matters more than anything." She looked at me, eyes flat. "I don't know." That one sentence detonated something inside me. I moved out that night. I took only the essentials, my clothes, laptop, a framed ultrasound photo. I found a short-term lease nearby, mostly empty but blessedly silent. In the days that followed, Maya doubled down. She posted cryptic videos about navigating heartbreak, shared her healing journey, and positioned herself as a victim of emotional abandonment. And Damien? He was in the background now, taking artistic photos of her belly, cropping himself out so she appeared independent. It was all curated, carefully, deliberately curated. Friends reached out, confused. Are you okay? Is the baby yours? Why did she say you left her alone? I didn't respond. Let them wonder. Let them question. But in the quiet of my new apartment, something inside me started to shift. I realized I had been living in a version of reality she controlled. Her moods dictated mine. Her lies shaped our truth. And now that I was outside her orbit, I could finally see clearly. She didn't want healing. She wanted narrative control. She wanted to rewrite the story so thoroughly that even I began to doubt what I'd lived. But I hadn't left her. I had been pushed out, slowly, methodically, and I had the messages to prove it. One by one, I started collecting receipts, screenshots, photos, timestamps, a digital trail of infidelity and image manipulation. Not for revenge, not yet, but for clarity, for something solid to hold when the lies became deafening. I visited a lawyer, asked about custody rights, paternity testing. He told me that without proof it would be hard. That family court favors the mother, especially when she plays the victim well. She's a social media darling now, he said grimly. You're the invisible man. But I wouldn't stay invisible forever. Not this time. It was raining the night I received the email. Ironic, really, how revelations often come wrapped in the quiet hiss of rain against glass. The message was from a burner account. No subject line, no signature. Just a series of attached images and a single line of text. She's not who you think she is. I hesitated, fingers hovering over the mouse. Then I clicked. The first photo showed Damien, not with Maya, but with another woman, a petite brunette, laughing as he kissed her cheek. The timestamp? 3 weeks ago. The second image was a screenshot of Damien's Instagram. He wasn't private. In fact, he had his whole life online, just under a different handle. Damien wasn't single. He wasn't some heartbroken poet who rescued Maya from a cold marriage. He was a serial manipulator, a hobbyist in emotional destruction. The final file was a short video. Damien in a car, recording himself talking to a friend. The audio was low but clear enough. Yeah, man, she's pregnant. But like, what if it's not even mine? She's just fun, so dramatic, like performance art. And then, laughter. I sat frozen. My mouth went dry. This man Maya had chosen over me, didn't love her. He didn't even respect her. To him, she was a game, a fleeting experiment in chaos. And Maya had staked everything on him. Her marriage, her child's future, her public image. I suddenly understood. She wasn't just betraying me. She was being used too. That was the moment my anger changed shape. It wasn't just rage toward Maya anymore. It was pity. Cold, hollow pity for the woman who thought she was pulling the strings, only to realize she'd been a puppet all along. But pity didn't mean mercy. No, now I had a purpose. After that night, everything inside me unraveled, and then rewove itself into something darker, sharper. I wasn't just a betrayed husband anymore. I was a man who saw the cracks, the lies, the power plays, and I was ready to fight back. But this wasn't about violence or shouting matches. This was a war of psychology, strategy, and control. The first step was reclaiming my narrative. Maya had flooded social media with her side, her pain, her truth, her strength. She was the glowing pregnant warrior queen, and I was the absentee villain, the cold husband who abandoned her in her hour of need. But I knew the truth, the messages, the photos, the deception. So I started carefully. No rash posts, no public meltdowns. I created a new account under a pseudonym and began gathering intel, tracking Damien's movements, connecting the dots on his real life, monitoring Maya's daily updates with cold, clinical attention. And what I found shocked me again. Maya's empowerment photos were staged with Damien's girlfriend in the wings, waiting to swoop in if the drama needed another push. Damien's job was to keep Maya unstable, to make her more dependent on his support. It was manipulation on a grand scale. The woman he kissed in those photos, his actual partner, the one he truly loved, no one knew. She stayed in the background, the perfect other woman in the shadows, while Maya played the star. I confronted Maya again, but this time with knowledge, not pleading. At first she smiled, cold, amused. "You think you're so clever," she said, "but you don't understand what's at stake." "I understand enough," I replied. "You're not pregnant with my child, are you?" She hesitated. Her eyes flickered, but she didn't answer. That silence said more than words ever could. I pushed harder. "If that baby isn't mine, if you're lying to me about everything, then why drag me through this? Why make me the fool?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because you needed to feel pain the way I did." I felt my chest tighten, not with anger this time, but with a haunting sadness. She wasn't the villain. She was a victim of her own warped love and bitterness. But I couldn't let myself drown in sympathy. Not yet. There was still too much to fight for. My days became a blur of court consultations and DNA test appointments. Maya denied access to the baby, claiming she needed privacy and space. Friends turned cold, some choosing to believe her, some quietly supporting me. I was isolated, a man stripped of trust and belonging. One night, as I sat alone in my tiny apartment, the walls closing in, I realized that this fight wasn't just about proving paternity or winning back the woman I loved. It was about reclaiming my identity, who I was beneath the lies, beneath the betrayal. Damien kept showing up in the background, a sinister ghost haunting every corner of our fractured lives. I learned from a mutual acquaintance that Damien thrived on chaos, feeding off broken relationships like a parasite. His latest project, Maya, and she, desperate for validation, had become a willing host. I needed a plan, not just to expose them, but to protect the child, to save whatever shred of dignity remained. I reached out to an old friend, Clara, a private investigator with a reputation for discretion and thoroughness. I didn't want to drag my mess into public courts without evidence that couldn't be twisted. Clara uncovered more than I bargained for. Damien's criminal record for fraud, his history of manipulating women, a pattern of deception that spanned cities and years. The woman he called his girlfriend was part of a cover-up, feeding Maya false hopes, while Damien played puppet master. Armed with this, I felt a surge of hope. I confronted Maya one last time, meeting in a neutral cafe where the noise could drown out the tension. She looked tired, defeated. Her eyes no longer burned with fire but flickered with exhaustion. "Why did you let him use you?" I asked gently. She looked away. "Because I didn't know how to be alone. Because I was scared of what I'd lose." "And what about us? The baby?" I whispered. "I'm scared too," she admitted, "but I wanted to be free, even if it meant breaking everything." Her honesty broke something inside me, a fragile bridge between pain and forgiveness. We didn't fix everything that day. The trust shattered too deeply. But we began to talk like real people, not adversaries. And as the DNA test finally confirmed what we both feared and hoped, the baby was mine, I felt the weight of what was to come. There would be no fairy tale ending, no clean break, just messy, painful rebuilding. But at least now, I wasn't alone in the fight. I was ready to face the storm, whatever it took. The day of the confrontation had been circling in my mind like a storm on the horizon, inevitable, gathering strength, ready to explode. It was time to face Maya, Damien, and everything we'd all become tangled in. I couldn't keep running from the truth, hiding behind lawyer meetings and private investigators. It was time to look them both in the eyes and demand answers. Maya had agreed to meet me at the coffee shop we'd once visited during happier times. A neutral ground, or so she said. I arrived early, nerves jangling under my skin, clutching the file Clara had put together. The record of Damien's lies, his manipulations, the proof that the woman Maya called love was nothing but a pawn in his game. And the messages, screenshots of every cruel text, every promise broken. When Maya walked in, her face was a mask of calm, but I could see the tremor beneath, the fear, the regret, the exhaustion. Damien was with her, just behind, looking too confident for my taste, his smug smile like a challenge thrown down. I didn't waste time. "Why, Maya?" I said, voice steady but aching. "Why did you do all of this? Was it really about me? Or was it just about breaking me?" She looked at me, eyes flashing. "You don't get to decide what it was about." "I don't?" I swallowed hard. "I lived every moment of it. The lies, the heartbreak, the public humiliation. You posted those photos to hurt me. The comments. They told me to comfort you. Do you know how twisted that was?" Maya's lips tightened. "I was hurting too. Hurting doesn't give you the right to destroy us, to let Damien use you like a puppet." I shifted the file on the table. "He never loved you. He told me so." Damien laughed, sharp and cold. "You think you know everything. Maya made her choice. I'm the one who stood by her. By using her," I spat. "By playing her like a game? You're a liar and a coward." Maya's expression faltered, eyes darting between us. "You don't understand what I felt. You never did. I was trapped in a marriage where I was invisible. You were already gone, even when you were here." "That's not true," my voice cracked. "I was trying. I was there." "No," she said softly. "You were present, but not there. You planned and scheduled, but forgot to listen, to hold me, to see me." The words hit harder than any betrayal. I wanted to shout, to defend myself, but the truth was undeniable. Somewhere along the way, I had failed her. "But you chose to betray me," I said quietly. "You chose to lie, to cheat, to drag our unborn child into this mess." Her eyes glistened with tears. "I was scared. I was desperate. I thought if I could break you, maybe I could be free." I stared at her, the woman I loved and lost. "And Damien," she swallowed hard. "He promised me everything. But it was a lie, just like you said." Damien's smug facade cracked for the first time. "You think you're better than me? She came to me. She was vulnerable," I said, "and you exploited her. That's the difference." For a long moment, silence stretched between us. Then Maya whispered, "I'm sorry for everything." But apologies felt fragile, too small to fix the devastation. "I don't want to fight anymore," I said, "but I need you to know. This ends now, for the baby's sake." She nodded, the fight gone from her eyes. "I want that too." Damien stood abruptly. "You're both fools. This game's over." But I held up a hand. "No, Damien, it's just beginning. For you." I pulled out my phone, showing him the screenshots Clara had uncovered. Damien's lies, his multiple relationships, his manipulations laid bare. "You're going to pay for what you've done, not just to me, but to Maya, to our child." His face twisted with rage, but there was nothing he could say. The evidence was concrete. The power dynamic shifted. Maya looked at me, a flicker of hope. "Can we really move past this?" I hesitated, then nodded. "We have to try." That day marked the end of the war and the fragile start of a new battle. For trust, for healing, for a future none of us could yet see clearly. But I was ready. For the first time, I felt like I was truly fighting, not against, but for. And that made all the difference. The weeks after the confrontation felt surreal, like waking up from a long nightmare, but still fumbling in the dark for solid ground. The storm had passed, but the sky was still heavy with unsettled clouds. Maya and I were no longer enemies, but the wounds ran deep, too fresh to pretend everything was okay. The baby's arrival loomed, a fragile promise and a reminder of all that had been broken. With Damien exposed and out of our lives, there was a fragile peace. The legal battles that followed were grueling, but Clara's evidence made my case undeniable. Damien's manipulations, his lies, they all came to light. He disappeared into the shadows, a man finally unmasked and powerless. Justice in some form had been served. Maya and I found ourselves facing the hardest challenge yet, rebuilding what had been shattered. It wasn't about rekindling romance. That chapter had closed in flames. Instead, it became about co-parenting, communication, and honesty. The unglamorous, difficult work of adults forced into an uneasy alliance for the sake of a child. I watched Maya change in unexpected ways. The armor of bravado she'd worn cracked, revealing vulnerability that hadn't been there before. She stopped posting staged photos online, stopped performing for an audience that didn't matter. I saw her learning to stand on her own 2 feet without leaning on toxic illusions. And I changed too. The betrayal forced me to confront my own failures. How I had been emotionally absent, how I had taken her for granted. The loneliness in my attempts to hold us together wasn't the absence of love, but the absence of presence, something I vowed never to repeat. When our son was born, fragile and crying, I felt something shift inside me. That tiny life, so innocent and untainted by our past, was a chance. A new beginning not just for Maya or me, but for both of us. It wasn't a cure-all, and it wasn't easy. The sleepless nights, the fears, the moments of doubt, they were real. But so was the hope. Sometimes Maya and I sit in silence, sharing a look that speaks of everything we've endured and everything we still have to figure out. There's no magic fix, no fairy tale reconciliation, just two flawed people trying to navigate a broken world with a child as their compass. I've learned that love isn't always about passion or grand gestures. Sometimes it's about patience, forgiveness, and the quiet strength to keep moving forward when everything feels like it's falling apart. This story isn't about perfect endings or villains getting their due in neat little packages. It's about messy realities, painful truths, and the resilience to survive them. Maya and I are not the people we were before. We're scarred, changed, but somehow more real. And in that reality, there's a kind of peace I never thought possible. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe one day we'll find a way to be more than co-parents. Maybe not. But for now, I'm just grateful to be part of this new life, watching, protecting, and hoping that the mistakes of the past won't define the child we brought into this world. In the end, I realized that betrayal and love are often intertwined in ways we never expect. The line between victim and perpetrator blurs, and all that remains is the choice, to let pain consume us or to let it teach us. I choose to learn. I choose to heal. And I choose to be there. For my son, for Maya, and most importantly, for myself. Because sometimes surviving is the most powerful kind of love there is. Looking back to that first moment when I saw Maya's photos, the betrayal laid bare for the world to see, I never imagined how tangled and raw everything would become. I thought those images marked the end of us, the final act of a story I was no longer part of. But life had other plans. The pain, the anger, the confusion, they all led me here, to this fragile place of understanding. The comments telling me to comfort her felt like a cruel joke at first, but they also exposed a truth I couldn't ignore. Love isn't black and white. Sometimes it's messy and confusing, wrapped in contradiction and coated in regret. I was supposed to be her comfort, even when she had torn me apart. That paradox haunted me, forced me to confront not only her pain, but my own failures. This journey taught me that love, betrayal, and forgiveness are never simple. They are battles fought in the quiet moments, in the phone calls, the silences, the shared fears. And sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. I don't pretend we have it all figured out. We don't. But we're trying. For the baby growing between us, for the future that feels uncertain, but still full of possibility. In the end, this story is not about who won or lost. It's about survival, about finding light after the darkest betrayals. It's about recognizing that sometimes the people who hurt us the most are also the ones we need to understand the deepest. And maybe, just maybe, that's where healing begins. So here I stand, bruised but not broken, carrying the weight of the past but looking forward to whatever comes next. Because even in betrayal, there is a chance to find new love. Love not without scars, but love that endures. And that more than anything is worth fighting for.